Welcome to Sports Econ 101. And for those of you new to our show, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking sports and business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-hosts, well-known radio sports personality Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. On this show, we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. In addition, we're going to ask sports trivia questions where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. And the vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseforfun.com. Today's trivia theme is boxing. And on today's show, we have a special guest, David Vogelstein, who is a criminal attorney, and we're going to discuss the criminal mind as it relates to sports. We'll talk about Aaron Hernandez and maybe get into a little bit of OJ if we have time. Also want to talk about Albert Pujols is suing Jack Clark for accusing him of taking steroids. And I'm going to ask Vern about him taking Tiger versus the field. We had a little fun with that last week. I'll also try to talk about, if we have time, of course, LeBron James for president of the NBA Union. LBJ for president. Where have I heard that one before? We'll finally try to get into Houston's greatest athletes. We've been trying to do that for a couple of weeks now and missed it. Same thing with Tim Tebow. Maybe get into a little bit of the Little League World Series and what happened with Bernie Kosar and his remarks. The guy must be under a little stress, no? Email us questions, Edward at SportsEcon101, and we'll try to answer it on the air. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by IRA Services Trust Company, providing self-directed retirement accounts with more choices, diversification, and among the lowest fees in the industry. I personally use them to hold my diversified IRA. They have the lowest fees around. Check them out at IRAServices.com. Don't touch that dial because you're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we will be right back.
Cool.
Let's do this thing.
Ed runs a tight ship here. We have to warn you about
Edward.
Yeah.
Yes.
that. Edward,
If
I'm
only
sorry.
you-
Edward, don't call
Why
me
is
Ed.
this? You broke it.
Don't call me Ed. It's one thing I learned about Edward. Don't call me Ed. There's got to be some deep reason for that. Maybe there was a bad guy named Ed years ago.
Maybe years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ed Randall or
So I
something.
already did the first 2 minutes, so I'm going to come in with welcome back.
Welcome back.
Okay?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's good to have you aboard.
All right.
Are you going to talk from that distance?
No, I'll go like this.
No,
When the time
Don't worry.
comes, I want to hear you yell.
Yeah, but then I got to this thing will blow
But
up.
between Vern and I, you'll be lucky to get a word in.
That's right. Go ahead. This is a lawyer here. He's gonna
take over.
He'll take over.
That's all right.
By the word.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
A few seconds of silence and we're going. Okay. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn.
Hello.
Say hello, guys.
Hello.
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 Okay,
Hello.
we have in the studio here a good friend of mine, David Vogelstein, who is a criminal attorney, and we thought it might be kind of fun to talk about the criminal mind in relation to sports.
Are you a modern day Perry Mason?
I'm an old school Perry Mason.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Della Street, Perry Mason, and Paul, the private investigator.
Oh, yeah.
Kicking Hamilton burgers.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
That's
I always
right.
felt sorry for the guy that was going up against him, the prosecutor, because he never
Hamilton
won
Burger.
he never won a single case.
Yeah.
It's
But he
all
al-
in the script.
Yeah, but he looked so competent, and he always felt sorry for the guy.
Your
Never won a
Honor.
case,
Mr. Mason's making a mockery of this. The court, please. I'm glad to show
if only
relevance.
real court were like that.
Yeah,
True.
That's true.
Okay, David, everything's been in the news specifically about Aaron Hernandez, and you brought us some notes, so take it away, because I know...
How much trouble is this young man in?
Oh.
Well, the big answer is that depends. First of all, we don't know crap. The district attorney, the defense attorney, they're still investigating the case.
Mhm.
There are 50 pages of search warrant information, and we still don't have an eyewitness to the shooter. Why is that to the shooting? Why is that important? Because why can't Aaron Hernandez say, "Hey, I was there"? I didn't shoot the guy. I didn't know he was going to be shot. I panicked. I covered up the crime because I saw my future going down the tubes.
Right.
So what does the prosecution need to do?
Say O.J. did it.
Well, they could
So
say
they have
that,
to do
but
that.
O.J.'s in prison.
Oh, okay, that's
true.
right.
They got to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt,
Right,
correct?
right. Prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, so the prosecutor's thinking 3 steps ahead. What do I need to preclude that kind of theory? What I need is to flip one of the guys there. And how do I do it? What's my juice to do that? Your juice is the fact that the helper, the aider and abettor to a murder, is as guilty as the doer. So the guy who opens the door for the guy with the gun, the guy who says, go ahead and do it, he's just as guilty without more for that murder. And if one of those other guys there did one of those things, you probably can count on
Okay,
that.
hold on. I opened the door for a guy. I didn't know he was going to rob a bank. Am I going to be found guilty?
No, but you got to know. But if the devil in this case is in the details.
Okay.
They got text messages between Hernandez and the victim.
Yep.
They got an execution killing. They found 2 slugs underneath the body, indicating that Mr. Oden was killed and then executed with 2 additional slugs while he was lying prone on the
Okay, so
ground.
they don't necessarily need to prove that Aaron Hernandez did it. All they have to do is prove that there's just enough evidence for him to have been acquiescing.
What about all this stuff on TV we see? Oh, the gunshot residue and this, that, and the other. And
Well, gunshot residue is nice if you have the goddamn gun.
oh, well, true.
They don't have
you can't
the gun.
swear on,
They don't have the
on
gun, do
radio,
they?
you know.
I thought it was Caleb.
Sorry.
They don't have the gun, right?
GD gun. We'll call it the GD gun.
It's disappeared, right?
Well, they looked in a lake
Mhm.
for 3 days. They couldn't find it. Mysteriously, I think Hernandez's sister is in custody in Connecticut, or Hernandez's relative. I'm
Wow.
not sure, and nobody's saying why. Maybe because she knows where the gun is. There's some information. Information is not evidence, by the way. What we know and what we get publicly, privately, is different from what the court allows into evidence. So, for instance, the fact that Aaron Hernandez may have been linked to 2 other murders, they're looking into that. Does that come in as evidence in this case? That's a crucial issue, because if it does come in, he's smeared with that, and the jury is much more likely to convict him.
So how does the judge decide, or in this case, if it actually is a judge deciding whether or not the jury's allowed to hear that?
That is based upon the particular rules of evidence of that state. For instance, in California, you can't introduce character evidence by the prosecution to prove conduct, but you can introduce that very same evidence to show motive or knowledge or intent. So if your theory is Aaron Hernandez resolved his disputes with people by flipping out and trying to kill him, that evidence may come in, even if it's not enough to convict him of those 2 other murders.
Yeah,
And
but if you're a jury, though, you hear that, and that kind of still sounds like character, doesn't it?
well, it does, but the jury doesn't know those rules. This is all done through what we call motions in limine. What evidence before the trial starts is the prosecution and the defense going to be allowed to introduce at trial? And that's going to be key in this case, because Aaron Hernandez walking in as a pristine choir boy, and there's evidence of that in his relationship with the New England Patriots. He was nice. He was a sir and ma'am kind of guy.
Tebow, wasn't he friends with him?
College teammates, too.
Yeah, and nice with the media. No, the media liked the guy.
Right. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of put that together with the other Aaron
The
Hernandez?
tattoos, that will do him in.
I don't think so. There are no gang
Oh, that's
tattoos.
right, you got tattoos.
Right.
And you're an attorney.
Right. But I didn't get them till I was 50.
Okay.
Now, I have another follow-up question, and it involves another former NFL player, but I don't know if we have time before we hit the
Oh,
break.
yeah.
All
Go
right,
ahead.
the most famous one of all, the O.J.
There you
Simpson trial. Here we are, at June 20th, 1994. So
Yeah.
many things happened that particular day. We could get into it, but that white Ford Bronco just riding down through. But fast forward back to today. As you look back at it, what a superior job by the defense team for O.J.
Well, we were
right?
talking about that.
Well, we were
Go ahead.
talking about that, and I thought it was a good job by the defense, a very poor job by the prosecution in not anticipating what will happen and what could happen, because that's what the good lawyer does. He or she thinks 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. If I do this, what are they going to do? The prosecution in that case knew that they had cop witnesses who were racists. They knew that that issue was going to come out. And as I was telling Ed earlier, I think what the cops did in that case is they framed a guilty person, and the jury punished him for it. That O.J. was probably guilty of the crime, but the cops' behavior was so outrageous, it took over the case. And in an African-American community where you have a history of black men being convicted of crimes they did not commit and being incarcerated or executed for it, that's a real sensitive issue when the cops are racist in a heavy, big-time murder case with somebody who was a sports icon.
In the big picture, doesn't karma usually prevail? In this case, yes, he was not convicted, but look what O.J. has gone through.
Well, we were talking about that.
The financial ruin all the way down, the character ruin. I mean, he's the guy
in Las Vegas.
Well, let's talk about what
is on an island.
What does a not guilty verdict mean? Does it mean innocent? No.
No.
A not guilty verdict means that the people have not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the signpost of our criminal justice system. That is what we believe in. That's what the vets have fought for. And so all that means is not proven. And the truth is, when O.J. was acquitted, I turned to my wife and I said, don't worry, the guy's a sociopath. He's going to do something else. He can't help himself. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, when he went to go get his sports memorabilia stuff in Las Vegas.
There you go.
And then with his crew, he had about 5 or 6 guys that stormed into that place.
Yeah.
And there were other relatively minor incidents in comparison occurring in Florida when he was living in Florida, even before then.
Sure.
He was vibrating out
He was
of
above
control.
the law. Right? Above the law.
I
Okay.
wore number 32 when I was a kid because of O.J.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I love the guy.
I would go selling O.J. with very close friends.
Okay,
I knew the man quite well.
Well, we are going to cut to our first commercial break, and since we're talking about criminal type stuff and all this, which we're going to get into the theory again of violence in sports that David and I were talking about. So today's theme is boxing. All right, here's the first question. Who was the first reigning lightweight heavyweight champion to win?
Lightweight or heavyweight?
Okay,
Wait, start all over it.
Who was the first reigning light heavyweight champ to win the heavyweight title? Okay. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Who was the first reigning light heavyweight champ to win the heavyweight title? Okay, got it? 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, spell out your email letter one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Right on the mic.
All right.
Good. Yeah, but before you guys got here, we were talking, and we were talking about, like, what does the NFL have a duty to, for these guys who are collision sport type thing. So I think that'll be good to get into.
I mean, they're doing it with concussions. They're really putting hands-on experts. Why aren't they doing it in a sport where they're trying to extract the most violent on the field and not giving them help in dealing with that violence off the field?
I know your background is criminal law, but I mean off the air. How do you think this whole NFL concussion thing is going to play out with respect to the veterans?
Well,
I mean, there's almost 200 former NFL players that are on that.
I think it'll come down to the issue is money. It'll come down to money, and they're going to sit down and they're going to work out the settlement. A lawsuit would not be beneficial to either side because a lawsuit means many years. These guys may not live that long, and it means years.
And it's bad publicity for them.
And it's very bad publicity.
Yeah.
And I think
the NFL does not.
They can afford a couple of $100 million. Easily.
$9 billion a year industry.
And they can afford to pay $200. I think it's $250 million they're going to have to pay these guys.
And don't forget, they're paying in cheaper dollars because these injuries occurred sometimes 20 years ago.
Exactly right.
I mean, so $1 million now versus what would that be? 20 years
annuity,
ago?
right?
Yeah.
Remember that annuity?
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Good
All right.
segment.
Second segment.
We come back, I'll ask you about violence in sports.
All right. Sure.
Okay.
Ask me anything.
You're driving.
Driving the bus.
You're driving the bus, my friend.
Okay,
We're just along for the ride, right, Vernon?
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn. We're in the studio here with criminal attorney David Vogelstein.
How you doing?
When we get to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Who was the first reigning light heavyweight champ to win the heavyweight title?
Man, I got two guesses. One old school and one more modern.
Go ahead.
Old school guess is Gentleman Jim Corbett over
No.
John L. Sullivan, and the modern one is Michael Spinks
Yes,
over Lee.
Michael Spinks.
Oh,
Thank you.
Very good. The last few weeks I've been asking a little bit harder questions, but that was very good.
Michael Spinks.
Leon's younger brother.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
So, David, being the criminal attorney, we were talking about crime specifically, but before we went on the air, you and I were talking about violence in sports and specifically the NFL and the duty that the NFL has to the players. So, take it away.
Well, you know, my thoughts are that when we watch a football game, we want to see violent collisions on the field. I mean, make no bones about it. That's what we want to see. And so that's what the NFL wants to give us. That's what drives their ratings, and that's what they give us. And the more violence we see, and the more violence they give us, the more violence they're looking for in the players. So what they do is they get players who are violent, and that's fine. But what they don't do, at least to my satisfaction, is they're not addressing those violent issues with those players, especially the rookies and the second-year players, as they leave the game, literally, as they walk out of that stadium. So you have people who are tanked up on violence, hitting each other as hard as they can. They take a shower, they meet the press, and they leave and go home, and their wife gets on their nerves. And that's why we see a lot of domestic violence
So
in
whether
the
or not,
NFL.
so whether or not there's steroids involved, you're still talking about guys who are jacked up on just the fact they've been,
Sure,
hitting guys.
and that's part of the game. So if the NFL is going to be making money off of this, and we're going to be getting pleasure out of watching this violent sport, then we owe a duty to these players, us as a community and the NFL, to really put our hands on the problem and adopt some kind of buddy system where you have older players working with younger players.
But aren't a lot of these guys a product of their environment, though? I mean, there's some guys that are playing in the league, violent guys, but you don't read about them in the newspaper or anything like that. But then there's other guys that are like, well, I got to get my signing bonus, got to get my Glock. I'll get you just and pretty much living the life of a music video.
Right, and whether we attribute that to the moral backbone of their family, because there are guys that, Khalil Bell, who's just signed by I think he was signed by the Jets. He's a local product.
Mm-hmm.
His mother is a clerk at the Civic Center. I know her. It's a
Mike Bell, great dad.
Right.
Yep.
Strong family. The guy has been hanging on by the threads in the NFL. He works at it. We don't hear a peep about him. Violence, frustration, anger, nothing.
But Plaxico Burress walks in a nightclub and the gun goes off in his pocket and he shoots himself. Well,
So
now.
Let me ask a question. You got a couple of players in football, half a dozen or a dozen, who are walking into nightclubs loaded with guns. Who the heck does that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that a sign to the NFL that we got to deal with this problem?
And to be honest with you, I don't remember this kind of thing happening to the high level that it's been occurring, say, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, there were incidents, there were bad guys in sports, there always have been, but I don't remember it being so much of an epidemic.
Well, maybe because the NFL has become more of a business and less as family.
Yeah.
Team as family take care of their own.
That's true.
And when you develop that with kids on local teams or adults, there's an internal modification of behavior that doesn't exist when, like you said, I want to get mine.
Right.
Well, okay, I figured out how to fix it. When they're taking a shower, you pipe in classical music. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Problem solved.
How about beautiful music, the old, remember those radio stations that used to play the Living Strings and Lawrence Welk, the beautiful music.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, just relax,
Yeah,
people.
that's
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a great idea. I used to work at one of those stations. I used to play that stuff. And I'd always wonder who's listening.
Here's the and let's don't forget the other added extra. I mean, there's a lot more of us, Bruce, walking around with these microphones,
That's
with
true.
resources.
You're right.
We got TMZ dedicating itself solely to sports now.
Yeah.
And if you sneeze the wrong way, it's going to get captured on video.
Right. So there's hypervigilance and hyper-transparency, too. So what went on in the Raiders locker room, hazing and all that stuff, we never saw in 1965, 66, 67. We see it all now. So maybe it's not that much more, but that doesn't mean we don't solve the problem.
Yeah, and also the gang thing. I remember back in the 60s, you never heard people glamorizing or making these gang members out to be icons, and now they're almost like romantic figures, kind of like the bad guys who wore the black hats in the old Wild West days.
Yeah, but I think that's a cultural problem, not a football
Right.
problem.
Okay.
Right. Good point.
Good point. Okay, let's move on here. Now, I had promised weeks ago, just for fun, we were going to talk about this, totally changing subjects for a minute. The 10 greatest athletes in Houston sports history.
Mm.
All right. I don't know if they have this in, looks like alphabetical order. Craig Biggio, okay, that's for the Astros. Earl Campbell.
I was going to mention
Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell and Nolan Ryan, we might
right up there.
1, 2, 2,
Didn't
1.
Earl Campbell have like thighs as big as tree trunks?
Oh, yeah.
He was,
Yeah.
Tyler, Texas.
Hakeem
Tyler
Olajuwon
Rose.
has to be on there, right?
Yeah, okay, so then, this is kind of ridiculous. Andre Johnson for
The wide receiver for the
for the Texans.
who wrote that?
I
Somebody from
don't
Texas.
know. I don't know.
He's good.
Someone from
I mean, he's good. But
Yahoo.
is he that good?
Well, he's been from 2003. I mean,
Now, these are native Texans or people that
No,
played
just
in Texas?
played in Texas.
Okay.
Where are the basketball players?
Hold
man?
on, Moses Malone.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Fall,
Bruce said that.
right?
Bruce Matthews.
Okay,
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. Yep.
They have here Yao Ming.
Yeah, he was only a couple of years.
Yeah,
and he got hurt
exactly.
most of the time.
Warren Moon.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Calvin Murphy, another
Oh,
Okay,
I love
yep,
Calvin
yep.
Murphy.
Hakeem Olajuwon, and of course Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, and actually this looks like it was in alpha. Yeah, in
Not
alphabetical
that
order.
many Astros on there, huh? Just Biggio and
Biggio.
Ryan. That's
Yeah,
it.
but Biggio played. Gosh, he played for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
And not Bagwell.
I thought that was kind of fun.
No
to
Jeff
bring that up.
Bagwell.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. He should. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bagwell's better than Biggio.
And so did I.
Yeah.
I thought that too.
Oh, well.
Okay, one of the other things that we promised to covered and we didn't. And again, I kept each week I kept saying if we have time, we're going to cover it. So now we're going to just do it. Tebow, his future could depend on his versatility. So he's not going to be playing quarterback anymore, probably. But he's 6'3", 245 pounds. So tight end.
He got a few reps last week in a preseason.
Play him like Cordell Stewart, the slash receiver. I mean, you have it maybe
The
line up.
guy is an athlete.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's an athlete who can bring together a team and get them to perform above their perceived capability.
Yeah.
You cannot let him go.
And in that vein, Jim Harbaugh said something interesting the other day when he talked about making of his football team. Because most teams, you got the coaches. Okay, I need so many receivers. I need so many linebackers. Am I going to carry 4 quarterbacks? Am I going to carry 3? And I'll get. He said, I want to get the best 53 football players on this team.
Don't have to be particular
he wasn't
players.
talking specifics, but
That sounds like a
he
true
wanted
coach,
the
though,
best
doesn't
53.
That sounds like a true coach talking, though. I mean, true coaches always talk about he's a football player.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Bill Romanowski once came up to me. I said, "What do you think of that guy?" Bruce, he's a football player. I know he's a football player. That's what he is. Okay, he hits people. He knocks people down.
He
okay?
wears big boy pants.
He wears big boy pants.
Right,
That's
right.
I mean, I tell you that Dave, this guy is a character. If you ever have a chance to meet Bill Romanowski, he comes across
As long as
like
he doesn't spit on you.
well, he comes across like a character out of a movie, but he isn't. That's who he
And
is.
speaking of Romanowski,
Yeah.
legalese wise, didn't he crush somebody's eye socket
Yeah.
with a helmet
And then he
at a Raider practice?
he punched him.
Yeah.
He punched him, and then he gave the guy a bunch of money to keep him quiet, and the guy
Right.
never played again. He was a rookie tight end. I can't remember the guy's
See,
name.
Counselor, money talks.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. In fact, we were
Wasn't he involved with the use and possible distribution of some illicit substances?
No, he was actually
He was famous for his little pillbox that he would walk around.
But it was all
He
legal.
did. I mean, it was like a
tiny.
briefcase.
It was tiny compared to the pillbox that the Raiders had in their locker room
Oh,
well,
when
yeah.
I was a kid.
But you should have seen it. One day I walked in there and his pillbox fell over. It was like one of those.
And a bunch of them spilled
Yeah,
out on the
he was
floor.
picking them up one by one, very carefully, and putting them back into
Vitamin C.
putting it back into their proper
Horrible
places.
supplements.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that David and I were talking about before you guys came in was, in putting guys together, trying to help balance out all the violence. And so I said, well, why don't you put a middle linebacker and a punter? You get one guy big, another guy kind of, maybe probably not so big. That probably.
They hate kickers.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because they can't get to them, right?
Kickers, punters. Although
What
Shane
about
Leckler was
this
cool.
new kicker who advertised himself as kicking
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's getting a look.
And he
Was
made
it the
two
Jets?
field goals.
Yeah.
Really?
He made
Okay.
two field
Yeah,
goals.
he was
From how far away?
was a soccer star.
49 and
Okay,
45.
that's
somewhere
respectful.
around there.
Tell you what, guys, we're going to cut to our second commercial break. We're having too much fun here. Got a few more things to cover.
Too much. What's that?
Too much fun.
Too much fun. Okay. Again, the theme is boxing. Who was the youngest to ever win the heavyweight title? Okay. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Who was the youngest to ever win the heavyweight title? Again, one more time. Call 888-660. It got quiet here all of a sudden.
Well, I think I know the answer.
Okay, you think you know the answer. Okay, 888-660-4495.
I know the answer, but I'm not telling it to anybody.
That's because that's Howard Coates.
He's a good friend of mine.
Really?
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Bosom buddies.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, of Howard's or of yours?
Both of ours.
Both of ours.
No,
Okay,
no,
make
just-
sure to
just
include your
speak
name, your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because when we come back, we are going to talk a little bit about Albert Pujols suing Jack Clark.
Oh,
I heard
yeah.
about
Right?
that. That's absurd.
And then also
What a
has-
career-killing statement he made.
Oh,
Huh?
God.
Yeah,
Hey.
and if you remember, Vern, last week, you took Tiger and we took the field.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back.
How'd that work out for me?
Not too good.
So what is this lawsuit about? I don't know anything about this.
Oh,
one.
what did Clark say about him? He said he was using pills.
Jack Clark, the
Former
new
Giant.
radio,
Yeah.
former Giant, but he was doing a show, St. Louis show, brand new show. So it was like the 5th show of the season.
With another guy.
And went on the air and he said, "I know for a fact, I know firsthand that Pujols was juicing."
He probably was.
And well, here's the thing: is
And then
he didn't
Pujols
switch- no,
heard that,
it
and
was,
that was
I heard it from this guy.
Oh, yeah,
And
he
then
heard
when
it
they
from
talked to this guy, he says, "I never said that."
Yeah.
That is
It's pretty irresponsible.
Pujols heard it, just
But
immediately
you know,
said,
you know what? The notion that you're going to get vindication in a lawsuit, all that's going to happen is you're forcing the other side to reveal all of the bad shit in your life. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
"Right."
I agree.
Why doesn't he just say, no, it's not true, and he just vindicated me because the guy who said he told him
Yeah.
never told him. The end of story.
Mhm.
The lawsuit is crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Less is more in terms of power,
Bring that up.
especially.
I like that.
Speaking of power, I mean, we can get into it. I mean, how much power does A-Rod's lawyers have? Good God.
Yeah.
I mean, he stringing that thing along.
Well, no, isn't that the process, though, once you appeal?
Then you can play while you...
It's
Yeah,
stayed.
oh,
It's
yeah.
like, when I do a DMV driver's license suspension case as part of the DUI, if I file my request for hearing, it gets stayed or stopped. No license
But
suspension.
Evan Longoria immediately said, "Why do we have to wait so long to have an appeal
Yeah,
heard? I
yeah,
mean,
that's
why,
like saying, why don't
Well,
we
why,
wait
why,
so
why,
long?
why can't
Here's
it
what
be
I
heard
think.
like the next week?"
A-Rod is toward the end of his career.
Well, yeah.
Evan's got how much? So A-Rod would probably go, listen, I've only got, another year or so to play anyway, so I'll just play because he gets suspended.
Oh, yeah.
By the time he gets ready to get better,
No, he's
his
going to
body's
quit.
not going to be.
Yeah.
When that suspension goes into effect, he's
Yeah,
going to
he'll quit.
quit.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
quit.
he'll
True,
quit.
but it's, if he was only like in his 3rd year.
How many more years does he have in his contract right now?
Not sure about that, but I'm thinking about his body being able to physically.
He
perform.
gets-
Would he walk away from guaranteed
Yankees
money?
owe him 100 and some odd million.
Yeah, he's not going to walk away from that.
No, okay, but and that's
They'll
the
take
thing
the
is,
suspension money.
there'll be
Yankees are trying to avoid the contract,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
They'll try to avoid
They've been
it.
trying to do that
And if
for
they
a
avoid the
year.
court, and if they avoid the contract, then the Red Sox and the Orioles, everybody in the American leagues, they'll cry foul because they'll go. Well,
That's
now
right.
the Yankees are under the cap. They can
Correct.
just spin,
Yeah,
spin,
right.
They'll just
and
get
they'll
another-
go over the luxury tax again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
So now Evan, how long has he been playing now?
4 years?
4 or 5 years. Yeah. See, so a guy like that, he
Hasn't even reached his zenith.
Yeah.
No. That makes sense. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to ask you the question.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Sounds good.
All right, here we
All
go.
right.
Ready?
Mhm.
Away we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Once again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn, and we're in the studio here with criminal attorney David Vogelstein. Hopefully, we won't need him at least for the next week. Okay. All right.
You get a discount.
Excellent. I need one. Okay, Bryn, we're going to ask Bruce this question first. Who was the youngest to ever win the heavyweight title? We're talking boxing here.
I got two answers: either Rocky Marciano or Muhammad Ali.
Neither
No,
one.
I'm going Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Oh, Mike Tyson.
That's correct.
That was my
Damn, I'm
choice.
good.
Yeah, you're
Mike
Tyson.
Tyson.
Oh,
Two for two.
man.
When you said he was your friend and Howard Cosell, I'm all, that ain't going to happen.
No,
It was Mike
what?
Tyson.
So Muhammad Ali, I think, was like 23. So Tyson must have been
He
younger
was
than that.
22.
22?
22,
Yeah.
I don't think he was that old. I thought Tyson was like 18, 19.
No.
No.
He was in his 20s.
Do you remember where you were when Ali won?
Yeah, I remember listening to it on the radio.
Me too.
Yeah.
Little transistor
Yeah.
underneath the
Which
in
sheet.
school.
Sonny Liston?
Lewiston, Maine, yeah.
Yeah, it was during our school assembly. We were having a
Wait,
school assembly.
Lewis Clay 1 or Lewis Clay 2? Lewis Clay 1?
The first one in Miami went like 12 rounds, and then the second one went 2 rounds or less than a round.
It was less than a round. It was the Phantom Punch.
The
Phantom
Phantom Punch,
Right.
right?
You know what? Muhammad Ali called that the anchor punch. He goes, "Yeah, it happens so fast you can't see it."
Okay,
Yeah.
and since we do have a criminal attorney in here, of course, this isn't, well, I guess it's sort of criminal.
By the way, you a Breaking Bad fan?
I'm not because I've seen a lot of that nasty stuff. Up close
Great
and personal.
character on that
I
show.
know.
There's a criminal attorney on the show called Saul. If you're in trouble, just call Saul.
I like it.
And he is unbelievable. You gotta remind me of him. He's awesome.
Thanks a lot. I'll say something else about it.
A nice attorney here from New York. Okay, Albert Pujols is getting sued. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He is suing Jack Clark for accusing him of taking steroids. Now,
He's thinking about it.
He's thinking about it.
He's thinking about it.
Clark got fired for that job, though, right? He got fired from his radio job.
Yeah.
For saying that. So that's punishment enough, maybe, for Pujols.
Jack did?
Yeah, he's been fired.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know the story, Jack Clark, former Giant, former Cardinal, was doing a new show. Talk show
with another guy,
based in St. Louis with another guy.
Yeah.
5th show of the season. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, I know for a fact, I know firsthand that Pujols was juicing. Now, if he had said, well, I think,
Or I
he
heard
would,
it from
because
somebody.
you know these talk show guys, they're paid to deliver their opinions, right? But he came out and said, no, I know firsthand, and then that was it.
Well, firsthand would mean you witnessed it.
Well,
Not I heard it from some guy.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys mentioned to me during the break that you learned it from somebody who denied ever saying it.
Exactly.
to
How about that, huh?
And I'm wondering
That's right.
now, Pujols got traded from St. Louis to.
No, he signed as a free agent.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. So I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of trying to stick it to him because he used to be a
Cardinal. It's
Yeah,
possible.
maybe. So you were saying.
I think he was looking for audience. I think he was looking.
Yeah, they're trying to new show. Everybody's trying to generate calls.
Exactly. I think that's just really irresponsible.
Right.
You know how we try to generate calls? We say, callers, please call. 888
There you go.
660
Well, the funny thing is, I know Jack Clark slightly, and he never struck me as an irresponsible type. I mean, he never got in
Except
trouble
for
with it.
buying all those cars.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Financially.
He's a very good
Well,
driver.
isn't it true? I mean,
Truck driver,
I
yeah.
don't know this. This is my second time on radio, but don't words just sometimes pop out of your mouth?
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Especially when you're doing a talk show.
It's called stream of consciousness.
Yeah, I've done it way too many
Or
times.
unconsciousness.
Right,
as far as
right.
Jack Clark.
But now you were saying on break, David, that if you were Pujols, since the guy denied telling Jack Clark that you would just let it go. Less is more.
Well, given those simple facts, I think that would be my advice at this point. First of all, you have a year or two to file the lawsuit, or more. You don't have to file it right away. And secondly, what's going to happen if he does? What positive publicity is Pujols going to get?
Pujols needs the money.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. And the reason that he's filing the lawsuit is probably because he has enough money to waste on it. But the truth of the matter is, when you file a lawsuit like that, and you're putting somebody's life and career on the line who doesn't have the money, you're backing them into a corner and they're going to fight hard. So all the stuff that you thought was hidden in your background that ain't so good is going to come out. Is that what Albert really wants?
Yeah, it sounded like he just wanted an open and shut case where, the guy's already denied it.
It doesn't happen that way. You got to think 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think he's going to file any.
I don't think he's going to file anything.
No, I think now that he knows that Clark lost his job.
I think a month from now it may be a non-story.
Yeah, I mean, if Clark kept his job, now maybe he would do it. But Clark got fired. And the guy who worked with Clark got fired. How do you like that? Talk about unfair.
God, what did he say?
Wow.
Yeah. Did he say, yeah, you're right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's all you had to say. Probably did. Yeah, he got fired
it's
too.
called aiding and abetting. The hell
Yeah.
is building as the door.
That's true.
Well, I'm glad I got my 2 co-hosts here who only tell the truth
Yes.
all the time, even with their opinions. Okay. Bernie Kosar, what about his remarks?
What did he say?
What, you don't remember reading about that?
No.
He was for, he's for Cleveland, he's doing commentating, and he was just blasting the Rams. These guys can't catch, and then he's blasting.
Oh, I heard about that.
Coaches
Yeah. That was a while
on
back, though, right?
He was just ripping the Rams coaching staff?
He's
Yeah.
ripping
Didn't
them.
he say something? Didn't he make it personal and say your parents would be embarrassed or
Yes,
something like that?
Oh,
Something
jeez.
like, yeah. I mean,
This is on television,
It
right?
was on national TV, yeah. Now, here's the funny thing is that, okay, so he's one of the most Kosar was one of the more popular players in Cleveland history. And now he's publicly talked about how his head injuries sustained during his NFL career have affected his speech, making him sometimes slur his words. He's also been addicted to pain medication.
Which will also make him slur.
True, right.
Gone through a divorce, which will also make you slur your words. And he's had financial troubles. In fact, I don't know if he filed BK.
He did.
Oh, boy.
He did, because he's one of the subjects of that ESPN 30 for 30
Oh, that's right.
called Broke. Yeah, he was on there
boy.
prominently.
So do you think a guy like that might be just a little critical of people?
Yeah.
A little bitter, maybe,
bit,
but you know
okay.
what? Those comments may be over the top and may not be elegant, but aren't they within the realm of permissible commentary?
Yeah.
Can't you say, you guys embarrass me? You're embarrassing my your parents. You're playing horribly. Why can't you say that?
You should be able to say it.
Well, again, we talked about that free speech, before. I mean, how much free speech is really free speech?
As long as you don't impugn somebody's character, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Well, but these guys are getting paid for their speech. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And with that comes some degree of responsibility.
Well, and the
right?
Cleveland Browns have told former quarterback Bernie Kosar to watch his words, quote unquote. So he was condemned for harsh on-air comments he made about the St. Louis.
So he's
Rams.
just been publicly kind of upbraided is all.
Yeah. So I guess he has to just say, "Gosh, that was a very good try, but he didn't catch the ball."
Right.
I mean, that makes for good television, doesn't it? Okay. Hey, how about LeBron James for president of the NBA Union?
Hey, he's thinking about it,
Why
huh?
not?
And you know why? Because it's LBJ for president.
There you go. I like
There you
it.
go. We can bring out those old bumper stickers.
That's
and
right, exactly.
The picture of the beagle being held up by
the
him
ears.
by the
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah.
And,
LBJ for the USA.
Well, he's essentially driving the NBA bus. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the biggest star in the league. He's the most powerful guy that there is. So give him the most powerful union position, and game over.
Is he as powerful as LBJ though? That's the question.
Probably more.
Remember LBJ came out with that campaign spot. I don't know if he came out with it. but
That's Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon
for you
Johnson,
listeners
yeah.
out there that are younger
Where he
than
said
30 years old.
I showed a picture of a little girl taking these petals off of a flower, and the next thing you see a mushroom cloud. Do you really want Barry Goldwater as your president?
I remember seeing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I remember watching it and thinking, geez, even I didn't like Barry Goldwater. I thought that was a little extreme.
Yeah.
Well, as Barry Goldwater said, extremism in the
Defense of liberty is no vice. And let me and they also said, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. And
There you go.
And I never forget my mom sitting in front of the television said as he said those words, saying, "Oh, shut up! You shut up!"
My mom said the same thing.
Did she?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Then I turned to liking Nixon.
My mom said, "Where is Adlai Stevenson?
Yeah.
Now that we really need
Yeah,
him?"
we need him.
Yeah,
Well,
he
Goldwater
was
got an
brilliant.
airport named after him.
Poor Adlai Stevenson. I
Got
think the
that
reason
going
he
for
never was elected was because he was a bachelor. In those days, if you're a bachelor, you couldn't be president. Well, you can't. Can a bachelor be president today, Edward?
Well,
I don't think so.
legally you can't.
Oh, I legally can, but I mean, there's only been one in the history of the American. That was James
Well,
Buchanan.
Wiener's going to be a bachelor shortly. Maybe he should run for president.
Yeah.
I think nowadays anything can, everything is open.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, people don't have the same kind of,
So here's my take
Can
on.
you imagine with the
on,
media access we have today, if you had a bachelor president? Oh my.
God.
Yeah.
He's out dating some
Can you
star.
imagine?
Can you imagine if he's dating some
The
star?
bachelor president.
Well, some of the presidents have acted like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kennedy.
true.
Kennedy had
Yeah.
what? Fiddle and Faddle, the two gals that were. Fiddle and Faddle. They were two secretaries, and they were college students. And if he wanted one of them, he'd say, I want Fiddle," and she would come in and take care of him. And then 5 minutes later, she'd leave, and then I want Faddle, and she'd come in.
I was in the White House 2 weeks ago. I wanted to see the tunnel where they snuck in Marilyn Monroe. That's what I wanted to
Well,
see.
Fiddle Faddle, didn't they? They used to be kind of a nice little treat. Fiddle Faddle.
Yeah,
when I was a kid.
that's right.
Is that what they got?
That's
Peanut
what
butter
they're
brittle.
for,
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Holy smokes!
So do you want to talk about LeBron James as
I'm
head
sorry.
of the union
Yeah.
or not?
Well, okay. So finally.
So
comes
here's
into
my
his own.
take on it. Given the fact that LeBron James is the most powerful driving force in the NBA, why dilute his power by forcing him to make representations on behalf of the union? He should be in the background directing things. If you don't do what we say, LeBron will be unhappy.
Yeah, the
Why
quiet.
have
That's
your
true.
biggest, baddest soldier out front where he's forced to look a little weaker,
Yeah.
be more moderate? I don't think it's a good idea. If he's doing this on behalf of the players, fine. If he's doing it on behalf of himself, he should be stepping back.
I like that.
So
have him
send a
hiding behind-
mouthpiece, have a
Yeah,
mouthpiece be
yeah.
the guy, but then you push the
I'm
buttons
available.
behind the curtain.
I
Exactly.
like that. No, hiding in the background,
I like
is the powerful kind of omnipotent
Well,
force.
you're thinking like an attorney.
Yeah, 37 years. There you go.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Sam Giancana behind Kennedy's election.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Judith Campbell Exner, another name for
There
the
you
guy.
go.
So his
Yeah.
girlfriend that they shared.
See what you learn here on
Oh,
Sports
Holy
Econ 101.
Holy smokes, you guys are bringing in the politics now. Okay, any,
Fiddle and Faddle.
we got a couple of minutes left before we have to cut out for another last break. Anything you guys want to bring up?
I don't know.
Alex Rodriguez.
Alex
Have we
Rodriguez.
talked about him yet?
No, we have not.
Not on the record.
What a nice guy, huh?
So
Good
here's
interview.
what I don't understand. I was a baseball fan growing up in New York City. My father took me to the Mets games. I saw Sandy Koufax pitch. I love baseball.
On the L train?
On the L train.
Thank you.
And I understand the use of steroids as peer group pressure, everybody doing it. What I don't get is when people lie about it, why aren't the sportscasters talking about that? A-Rod lied. He lied twice, and he lied to the American people.
Or Melky?
Why isn't that the signpost of a permanent ejection from playing baseball? Because all you're teaching the younger players is you do it, you try to get away with it, you lie about this. Is this what we want our young people to learn?
Well, you can talk about it on a 3-hour show. You can talk about it for a segment. You can generate calls about it, but you can't do it every day.
Okay, we'll tell you what, we are gonna cut to our third commercial break. When we come back, we'll finish up talking a little bit about A-Rod. Okay, the theme is boxing. Here's our third trivia question. Who did Joe Louis beat for the heavyweight title? The first three callers with the correct answer. This is
Which time?
Yeah, which time? Because he won it back once.
You guys, you're killing
Hey,
me.
man! Hey!
You're killing me.
Hey, man!
Probably
The
famous
first time.
The famous time?
The first
probably
time.
the first time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the first three
We got
callers
that.
with the correct answer.
I got the second time. I don't know about
Well,
the first
we'll
time.
answer. We'll
Okay.
let you answer both of them. Okay, win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Who did Joe Louis beat for the heavyweight title? Make sure to include your name and your email address. Speak slowly. Spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back with some closing comments, and we'll also talk just a little bit more about A-Rod.
I was
First
so
time, that was-
pissed at A-Rod for lying.
I'm
What
thinking
about
player.
Melky setting up a
And
fake
Melky's now
website
playing
for
again.
And then Ryan, what's his name? Braun?
Yeah,
Right, Ron.
He just bald-faced held these press
Yeah.
conferences. I
Everybody's
was
all smug, came
Yeah.
out after, oh my
Who is
God.
it?
Well,
Rafael
that's what you gotta
Palmeiro?
put a
Yeah.
stop to is the
Read my
lying.
lips.
Yeah.
Read my lips. I did not do steroids.
Why? Because they make
You haven't heard his
$25
name
billion
mentioned,
a year. They're allowed to
Too much.
lie,
Well,
and
it-
we teach our kids that they need to accept the consequences for their behavior.
Well, hey, it's risk reward, man.
Yeah.
Big risk, huge reward.
Yeah.
Potentially, you can get away with it.
But even the lies, huh? Even the lie was
I hate to say that.
See, when I was a kid, when someone said, would you rob a bank if you could get away with it? The answer was no, because it's not the right thing to do.
Nowadays, it's a different story.
Oh,
Banks
can I
are
get away
looked
with
at
it?
as like,
Sure, you go.
hey, you're robbing the
It's
bank.
only the bank. Yeah, it's only the bank.
Yeah, they got money in
They have money, exactly.
Plus, we bailed them out. Hey, we're taking our money back.
Yeah.
Fair. I want my share.
Well, actually,
In the end, didn't the banks end up not doing what they were supposed to do? And they were just getting away with it
no,
anyway?
because the banks were robbing you.
Yeah.
They just didn't use a
Still
gun.
are.
That's right. They still are. Yeah.
It's so funny. The banks screw up their investments and they go running to the government and say, please give me money.
Well,
if you or I screwed up our investments or we ran to the
They'd
government,
laugh at
they'd
us.
lock us up in the loony bin.
Yeah.
except that, was it J.P. Morgan was, I know someone who was kind of high up there, and Feinstein was sitting at this table and looking to the president of the company during all this crisis, right? And said, well, we're going to be giving you TARP money. But he says, no, we don't need it. We're doing fine. She says, no, you don't understand. You will be taking the TARP money. They had no choice. They had no choice. They had to take it.
Right, but
Now, we get
banks
it back to-
routinely go to the government when they make bad investments
That
and
is
say,
true.
if you don't help us, millions of
Look at
people
that,
will be out of work.
Yeah.
So it's the interconnectivity of capitalism that generates the favorable treatment of the wealthy over the
Well,
poor.
AIG, they were basically saying, look at how decimated the economy would be. But didn't AIG actually pay all of it back plus
Yes.
a good profit? So in that case, it was a good investment for the government.
It's
Strictly
what
looking at
happens when you make money not off goods and services, but of paper, magical
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
It's
Fiat.
magic. What is it?
Fiat money.
Arbitrage
I
for
like that.
betting
Fiat.
money that this is going up.
Isn't that what they call it? Fiat money.
Fiat money,
Yeah,
right?
I like that word.
Okay. You guys ready?
We're ready.
Yeah. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn. We're also in the studio here with criminal attorney David Vogelstein, who's given us some very entertaining synopsis of laws and everything. Okay, when we got to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question: who did Joe Louis beat for the heavyweight title?
I know who he won the second time. He beat Max Schmeling, but that was the second
That
time.
was the second one. No,
Yeah.
not interested in that one.
But did he win? Did he,
Come on.
The
was,
first
it,
time.
was it Jersey Joe Wolf?
Nope.
No, he was later.
He was
Think-
later.
And he beat Joe.
Think movie.
Think movie.
Remember the movie? Cinderella Man. Jim Brown.
Oh, that's right, Jim Braddock.
James Braddock.
James Braddock.
James
He
Braddock.
beat Russell Crowe.
Well, he beat Russell Crowe, exactly.
Poor Russell Crowe went home to that wife and said, "I've lost my job again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good movie.
yeah.
It was.
Enjoyed that.
Russell Crowe was amazing. I don't know how you learn those moves.
You
And
know-
well, Robert De Niro was even better in
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun.
Those hours upon hours
Oh.
of choreography
Oh,
in that.
yeah.
Well, if I remember correctly, which I think I do, James Braddock beats Max Baer.
Max Baer, that's right.
Yeah.
The father of Max Baer of the Beverly
of the
Hillbillies.
Beverly
There we
Hillbillies,
go.
that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And did Max kill someone in the
He did. He did. He killed the last opponent before.
Before, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was just Hollywood or not.
Although they really made him look like a bad guy in that movie. He was not a bad
Yeah,
guy.
that's what. Yeah, they definitely.
And he was. His kids were really upset about that.
Okay, real quickly, touch on. I got 15 seconds. Alex Rodriguez. Anything else about him?
He lied. He should be out. He lied twice. He should be out of the game
Twice. Okay. Very
He's
good.
a bum.
He's a bum. Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. George Brett said, in sports, if a tie is like kissing your sister, then losing is like kissing your grandmother with her teeth out.
Oh!
I remember the only thing I remember
That's a
most
pretty
about
sight.
George Brett is about
How
discussing.
would he know enough to make that?
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
I always remember George Brett talking about his hemorrhoids before the
Oh,
World
that's
Series.
right. I
Amazing.
remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
big pitch man for
Okay,
Edward.
and I like this one. And in the immortal words of Vince Lombardi, if winning isn't everything, why do they keep score? Right? Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, your host. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Good night.
So long.
And good night.
Good. Right on the money, bye, guys.
All right.
Excellent. Fun show.
That was fun.
That was fun.